Well, people who know me, not even know me well, just know me, will know that I have zero sense of direction. Last Wednesday morning with Greg, I attended a Red Shield Appeal meeting and I was reminiscing at that meeting about the very first one of these meetings that I was supposed to attend in 2021. And some of you may recall this story, that we'd been living in Sydney for about 6 weeks and I was not able to get myself to 87 Marsden Street, Parramatta. So in great frustration, I turned around and came back to the office. And on occasion, Sarah and I will be sitting somewhere in the building having a conversation with each other or with others, and I'll say, over there at Parramatta Park or over there at Westfield, they've come from Westfield, and Sarah will say, yes, they have come from Westfield, as I'm pointing very confidently that Westfield is over there, and Sarah will say, yep, but Westfield it's that way, isn't it? I learned that in the 9:30. It's that way. Because I literally have no sense of direction. And this was highlighted again just when we were on holidays. And on Monday morning, the 15th of April, we headed off to the airport. Dave had arranged to leave our car at the Tempe Salvo store. And we were following the GPS, and I said to Dave, it's a shame he's not here today, but I said to Dave, is that correct? And he said, yes. And I said, I feel like we should be veering to the right, not to the left. And I have no idea why he listened to me, because we have been married a long time and he has known me a very long time, but he listened to me and we went right. And we were on some M road that had tunnels and we ended up miles from where we were supposed to be. Fortunately, we had left plenty of time so that we still made our flight. But Dave and Josiah for the next few days had very unkind things to say about me and my sense of direction. So we arrived in Adelaide and we were having a lovely time, and I don't know if it was Wednesday or Thursday afternoon, we had been out. And Dave needed to make a phone call and he said to me, can you drive back to Noah's house? And I said, oh, that's fine, no problem. So I get in the car and driving along, and Dave's on the phone, and I'm really as happy as Larry, and I'm reminiscing again about all these places we're driving past, because we had lived there for 6 years. 6 years. And it was really quite lovely. And Dave hangs up from his phone call and he says, where are you going? And I said, well, I'm going home to Noah's house. I said, I'm just going to go up here and turn right down Bicentennial Drive. And Dave said, well, that's really good, but Bicentennial Drive is behind us. And you should have turned left into Bicentennial Drive, not right. Now, the scary thing is that Noah lives 5 minutes from where we had lived for like 6 years, and Adelaide's not very big and everybody knows every street, but I still had no idea where I was going because I have no sense of direction. The only good thing about it all was that Dave didn't ask me to drive again because he didn't trust my sense of direction, and I don't like driving anyway. So it actually was a win-win for me. So I'm just going to play that card every time, I think. But direction, it's good he's not here, isn't it? Direction, no skills, no sense of, lack of, getting lost, meandering aimlessly. How important is direction when you're trying to get somewhere? Even in life, when you're trying to figure out a plan. As a Christian, when you're trying to consider, or you are considering, what road it is that God wants you to take. When you're lacking direction, what do you look for? Me, I actually sometimes call people. If I am literally lost, I will ring people up because I'm searching for a guide. But I think that there are a lot of people in life, both Christians and non-Christians, who are looking for someone to lead them or to guide them. People struggling on their way or wanting to know what to do next in life. Well, if you were here last week or you watched online, Sarah talked about Moses and how Moses and the Israelite people were being led. And she quoted a verse from Exodus 13 that says, by day the Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of cloud to guide them on their way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so that they could travel by day or night. God had been guiding them. He went ahead of them and had been leading them by a cloud and by a pillar of fire. And so we finished kind of Exodus 13 and the book continues on. And I want to give you some highlights. Some of them you'll know and you'll know well. God gives to Moses the first tablets of the 10 Commandments. And he also gives Moses some more details about laws and instructions that need to be followed. And when Moses relays this information to the Israelite people, they say, everything the Lord has said we will do. So Moses built an altar and then spent 40 days and nights on Mount Sinai, receiving even further direction from God. And this was about the tabernacle that was to be built. And God covered everything in these instructions, from the ark to the curtains, to the posts, to the courtyard, to the priestly garments and the woven tunics, even how to burn the incense. And then if you keep reading, God outlined some of the names of people that he wanted to carry out this work. And there's a lot of detail recorded in Exodus from chapters 25 through to 31. And then God said to Moses, make sure that the Israelites observe the Sabbath. If they don't, they'll be put to death. Now, while Moses was up Mount Sinai, the people were actually just going about their normal lives with Aaron. And they gathered around Aaron, who you will remember was kind of the right-hand man of Moses, and said, come, make us gods who will go before us. As for this fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what's happened to him. Moses had been gone for 40 days. And in that short space of time, the Israelites were looking for someone to guide them or to lead them. So Aaron, remembering that he had gone and confronted Pharaoh with Moses, that he had journeyed with them, the Israelites, through the wilderness, he tells the Israelite people to bring all their gold, and he used it to make a golden calf, an idol to worship. And so these people are worshipping this statue. Moses is still up the mountain, but God sees what is going on. And he says, go down, because your people whom you brought up out of Egypt have become corrupt. They have been quick to turn away from what I commanded them and have made themselves an idol cast in the shape of a calf. They have bowed down to it and sacrificed to it and have said, these are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt. When I have read that, and I've read it obviously before the last few weeks, I think how quickly they had forgotten. It was only a month or so, 40 days beforehand, that the people were saying, everything the Lord has said we will do. And now look what they are doing. They're worshipping a golden calf. So Moses comes down from the mountain and challenges Aaron and the people. And I won't go into all the gruesome details. You can read it for yourself if you want to do that. But there is some fighting, and about 3,000 of them die. And then God says to Moses, now go ahead, lead the people to the place I spoke of. And it's here in the rest of this verse also that God then says that I will send an angel, which is what Jan was talking about earlier. And then the Lord said to Moses, leave this place, you and the people you brought up out of Egypt, and go up to the land I promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will give it to your descendants. I will send an angel before you and drive out the Canaanites, the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Go up to the land flowing with milk and honey. But I will not go with you, because you are a stiff-necked people and I might destroy you on the way. I will not go with you. Lead my people, but I'm not going with you. Well, this perhaps could be new kind of territory for Moses. I just shared from Exodus 13 that they had been led previously by cloud, by fire. God had provided for them manna and quail. He'd guided them and led them through the Red Sea where he had parted the waters. But now he's saying, I will not go with you. You've been telling me, lead these people, but you have not let me know whom you will send with me, Moses said back to God. But God replies, my presence will go with you and I will give you rest. Phew, says Moses in the Kylie Collinson paraphrase version of the scriptures, because if your presence isn't going to go with me, then I'm not going anywhere. But what do we do when we're at a point where we need guidance? When we have a choice about which way we want to go or need to go or what we need to do, when we're uncertain of the future? I think there are times in our lives when it's really clear which way we should go. Some of you will have heard me talk about our move to Sydney, and when the Salvation Army called us and kind of say, is there any reason why you can't move to Sydney? I straight away said, no, there's not. And it was a very easy decision because in my heart and in my mind, I knew this is where we were supposed to be. But there are other times when the Salvation Army have made that call where it has been far more challenging. And I think that there are times when it's easy to follow God and to know where he is leading, but other times when it is far harder to even discern or know what he is saying. And I was thinking this week, how good would it be if it was as easy as this? See these road signs. Imagine if you're going through life and you're like, right, straight down the middle, one way, this is the way you are to go. And I think even if you get to a sign that says wrong way, go back, it's pretty clear. And then I was thinking also about other times in my life, and you may be able to relate to this, where there's just like two ways you can go, 50-50. Can veer to the right or veer to the left. I thought, that's pretty good because there are some times when, you're just looking at this massive roadmap thinking, where am I supposed to go? I'd be happy to take the option of choosing one way or the other if it were that simple. But I think again at this point in the scripture, and Sarah and I have said throughout this series numerous times that Moses is very relatable, well, for us anyway. We hope he is for you, because he's been on his journey for so long, for years and years and years. He has been listening to the voice of God and following what God has been asking him to do. And there's no doubt that God had been with him, that God had been leading the Israelites, that God delivered them from Egypt, that God had sustained them and he had been guiding them up until this point. But yet Moses, even as an older person, is almost questioning, well, what's going to happen now? Who's going to go with me? In January, when we were in Melbourne on holidays, this just sounds like my holiday stories today, but we were able to celebrate a family 40th birthday in some beautiful gardens in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne. Typical Melbourne though, the weather was horrendous. It was freezing cold in the middle of January and we all had coats on. But soon after we got there, I discovered that there was a hedge maze that was available for anyone who wanted to tackle it. Now, as you might expect with my sense of direction, mazes kind of terrify me, but I have a nephew, or we have a nephew, who was pretty keen to go into the maze, and so being the favourite auntie, well, in my eyes anyway, I'm his favourite auntie, I offered to take him. And so we entered this maze, and it's a beautiful maze, you can see. We went in and I said to my 6-year-old nephew, which way should we go? And he was so excited that I was just going to follow him through this maze. And he led the way, and we'd come to this T intersection and I'd say, well, which way are we going to go now, Patrick? And I was happy to follow along. And we wandered around, and there was a lot of decision making and there was a lot of laughter until he decided he had enough and he wanted to get out. And I started to get questions like, Auntie Kylie, are we lost? Can we get back to the party? Do you have your phone so that we can call my dad? Do you know where we are? And my internal answers were, no, we're not lost. And yes, of course, we can get back to the party. And we are definitely not calling your dad, who is my brother, because I will never live that down. And no idea where we are. But in that moment, I realised that my nephew, who's not very tall, he needed a guide, someone to lead him, but also to reassure him. And so I looked down at him and kind of bent down a little bit, and I said to him, it's okay. I'm here with you. I'm not going to leave you. And actually, because I'm a bit taller than you, I can see where the exit is. It's just over there. Even with my sense of direction, though, I was wondering how I was going to get there, even though I could see the exit. But never mind. We kept wandering, and eventually we were able to get out of the maze. You know, Moses had prayed, and this is from the Living Bible. This is the same verses that Jan and Ian read to us earlier. You have been telling me, take these people to the promised land, but you haven't told me whom you will send with me. You say you are my friend and that I have found favour before you. Please, if this is really so, guide me clearly along the way you want me to travel, so that I will understand you and walk acceptably before you. You know, there were no massive signs or wonders from God in this encounter, although I would say the voice of God is an amazing sign. There were no plagues though, no parting of the Red Sea, no bolts of lightning, no sign writing. God simply reassured Moses in his words of saying, my presence will go with you and I will give you rest. When I think about the encounter that I had in the maze on that day, I realised that all my nephew needed was my reassurance. I am here, I'm not leaving you, but also I can see where we are going. Moses had prayed, guide me clearly along the way you want me to travel. And God replied with, my presence will go with you. Does anybody here today need this assurance or this reassurance? Imagine even in a room like this, that there will be people at the moment who are saying, which way should I go? There are decisions to be made. Moses asked God, who will go with me? And God says, my presence will go with you. You know, maybe you've hit one of those signs in life that says, wrong way, go back. Well, God says to you today, just as he said to Moses, my presence will go with you and I will give you rest. Or maybe you're at a divided road, not even just a road that is left and right. Maybe you're at a crossroad, maybe you're at a roundabout. Who knows where you are in life? But God still says, my presence will go with you and I will give you rest. I can see what is ahead. I will be your guide. I will not leave you. The psalmist David knew this as well. When in Psalm 23, arguably maybe the most popular verses in Scripture, he wrote, "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest." God guided the Israelite people, and they came to the land that God had promised, the land that had been promised years before, the land of milk and honey. At times they walked through the darkest valleys, times they worshipped calves. Moses had a fit of rage and smashed the 10 Commandment tablets. But still God said, my presence will go with you and I will give you rest. I will continue to guide you. He leads us beside the still waters. His goodness restores our soul. And in him we can trust alone, for his endless mercy follows me, and his goodness will lead us home.